The 1995 Formula One World Championship was the 46th season of FIA World Championship for drivers and the 38th Formula One World Championship for constructors, which were contested concurrently over a 17-race series that commenced on the 26th of March and ended on the 12th of November. Michael Schumacher won his second consecutive Drivers' Championship, and Benetton won the Constructors' Championship, the first and only Constructors' title for the Benetton team. Schumacher won 9 races en route to the championship, equaling the record set by Nigel Mansell in 1992. He also continued his rivalry with Williams Renault driver Damon Hill, including collisions at the British and Italian Grands Prix. Both those races were won by Schumacher's teammate Johnny Herbert. Taking his first 2 F1 victories, Hill's Williams teammate, David Coulthard, claimed his first victory in Portugal, while Ferrari's Jean Alesi achieved his only F1 victory in Canada. Just like Honda in 1988, Renault engines won all but one race in this season. 1995 was also the last season in which the numbering system introduced in 1974 was used. From 1996, car numbers would generally be allocated based on the Constructors' Championship order of the previous season. This was also the first season of new 3-liter engine formula, and last season in which a V12 engine would race in Formula One. Ferrari, the only team racing with V12 in 1995, would switch to using a V10 engine for 1996. This was also the last season during which 1992 champion Nigel Mansell competed. He left the sport once more after a shambolic short-lived race stint with McLaren, which saw him initially unable to fit comfortably in the Woking team's MP4-10 car during preseason, requiring a wider cockpit to be built to suit Mansell, which in turn delayed his debut for the team until the third round of the season at Imola, before quitting the team after struggling further at the following round in Spain. Mansell would never race in the sport again thereafter. In this season, there was a threat of a drivers' strike over the terms of the 1995 FIA Super licenses, which allowed the FIA to demand promotional appearances and forbade the drivers from criticizing the championship. This was resolved by the governing body prior to the race, ensuring full driver participation. About Team 1995 was the last year for Team Simtek. At the end of the 1994 season, Team Lotus left F1 after 36 years in the sport, winning 6 drivers and 7 constructors championships, with the team ceasing operations in January 1995. Shortly before the team closed doors, the team's assets were bought by David Hunt, brother of 1976 Formula One champion James Hunt, who later announced that the Lotus name would be used by Pacific Grand Prix under the name Pacific Team Lotus. The Laris team failed to turn up for any of the on-track sessions, with French government aid not forthcoming. The team ran out of money, while Formula 3000 Team 40 made the step up to Formula One, with their 40 FG01 being the last F1 car to use a manual gearbox. The status and the ownership of Ligier was under scrutiny. When Martin Brundle signed with them for 1995, rumors spread that Tom Walkinshaw would take up the function of team boss, since Brundle and Walkinshaw had many successful collaborations in the past. Walkinshaw worked for Benetton in 1994 as engineering director, but when that team was found to use an illegal fuel filter at the German Grand Prix, they were let off the hook, after promising to fire Walkinshaw and implementing major changes within the team. On the side of Benetton, this deal was negotiated by Flavio Briatore. However, since he was also the owner of Ligier, it seemed more like a promotion for Walkinshaw, albeit with a smaller team. Furthermore, rivals compared the Ligier JS4-1 to the Benetton B195, the only apparent difference being the engine in each car. The 1995 season saw a major reshuffle among the engine suppliers. Benetton ended their 7-year association with Ford Motor Company by switching to the Renault RS7 engines. The contract with Ford was taken up by Sauber, and they parted ways with longtime partner Mercedes-Benz. McLaren then offered a new home for the Mercedes engine supplier, ending a tragic relationship with Peugeot after just 1 season. Jordan took on the Peugeot engine deal, replacing their Hart contract. And so, finally, the Hart company moved teams to Footwork Aeros. After 4 years as an independent engine supplier, Ilmer eventually shifted focus to trusted engine designer, builder, assembler, and tuner to Mercedes-Benz high-performance engines, despite the partnership started from 1994 season onwards. Pacific Racing replaced their 1993 spec Ilmer engines for customer Ford EDC engines. Minardi had been expected to run with Mugen Honda engines, but at the last minute, Ligier boss Flavio Briatore persuaded the Japanese engine supplier to supply his team, leaving Minardi in a mess. Their M195 was designed for the Mugen Honda V10, and parts were already being made. The team then had to work flat out to build a brand new car with a Ford ED engine, tuned by Magneti Marelli. Team owner Giancarlo Minardi announced he was taking legal action against the Japanese supplier, while the Simtech team went bankrupt on the 1st of June, after the 5th race of the season. Nigel Mansell retired from Formula One after 15 seasons, after a short and tragic experience in McLaren for 2 races. On the 28th of October, 1994, Ligier issued a press release stating that Olivier Panis and Johnny Herbert were going to be their official drivers for all of the 1995 season. However, at the end of January, they announced that Herbert was no longer at the team, joining Benetton instead, and that Aguri Suzuki and Martin Brundle would share the second seat. In Williams, Coulthard was offered a full-time drive, while Mika Solo replaced Mark Blundell at Tyrrell, with Gabriele Tarquini now the team's test driver. Mark Blundell replaced fellow countryman Martin Brundle at McLaren. However, Nigel Mansell was in the McLaren seat from the San Marino Grand Prix. He had already been confirmed at the team when he left Williams, but he could not fit in the car. His deal was also dropped from $15 million to $10 million because Marlboro refused to pay his asking price. Simtech brought in Jos Verstappen from Benetton instead of Hideki Noda, and was therefore relegated to share the second drive with Domenico Schiatarella. Noda ended up not driving for the team at all, as they went bankrupt after the Monaco round. New Team 40 brought in veteran Roberto Marino, along with rookie Pedro Diniz. Christian Fittipaldi was replaced by Taki Inoue at Footwork. Pacific replaced Paul Belmondo with Andrea Montermini, while Minardi replaced Michel Alboreto with Luca Badoer. Going into the Monaco Grand Prix, McLaren replaced Nigel Mansell with test driver Mark Blundell. At the same time, Karl Wendlinger's seat at Sauber was given to Williams' test driver and reigning International Formula 3000 champion Jean-Christophe Boulian. From the British Grand Prix on, Footwork replaced Johnny Morbidelli with International Formula 3000 driver Massimiliano Papis, citing sponsorship reasons. Morbidelli would eventually return for the final 3 races of the season before that same weekend. Bertrand Gatchet stepped away from driving duties with Pacific. The seat was temporarily filled by Giovanni Lavaggi and Jean-Denis Delatraz. The team tried to hire Katsumi Yamamoto and Oliver Gavin, but they were not granted their super licenses. And Gatchet returned for the last 3 races. Minardi replaced Pierluigi Martini with Pedro Lamy from the Hungarian Grand Prix onwards. After having done 2 years of touring car racing, Gabriele Tarquini made a one-off return to F1 when he filled in for Yukio Katayama at the European Grand Prix, as the Japanese was still recovering from neck injuries and severe bruising sustained during a crash at the previous round in Portugal. Jan Magnussen was promoted from test driver at McLaren to replace Mika Häkkinen for the Pacific Grand Prix, due to the Finn suffering from appendicitis. About the racing calendar was initially announced at the beginning of 1995, but there were doubts over the selected dates. The Argentine Grand Prix was the only newly announced race, with it taking place at the Autodromo Oscar Alfredo Galvez circuit. The circuit was due to begin the season on the 12th of March, but there were doubts over whether the circuit would be ready in time. The second race in Japan was also under threat, as the T-circuit was badly affected after the Great Hanshin earthquake, which damaged local infrastructure. The San Marino round, Spanish round, and the Italian round required safety upgrades. The Circuit de Catalunya was also in financial difficulty. On the 6th of February, a revised calendar was announced. However, some tracks still needed clearance to race. The Argentine Grand Prix moved to the 9th of April, despite the fact it had now received official clearance from FIA safety inspector Roland Breinsereid. It gave the honor of being the season opener to Brazil. The Pacific round was pushed back due to the earthquake, placing it just 1 week before the Japanese Grand Prix. The European Grand Prix was moved forward 7 days, leading to another space in the schedule of just 1 week. Calendar changes. The Argentine Grand Prix returned after a 14-year absence. The Spanish Grand Prix and Monaco Grand Prix swapped places on the calendar so that the Monaco round follows the Spanish Grand Prix. The European Grand Prix moved from the Circuito Permanente de Jerez to the Nürburgring. It was the first time since 1985 that F1 raced there. But let's now go and discover this epic and dramatic Formula One season. Damon Hill for Williams achieved pole position for the first race of the season in Brazil. Champion Michael Schumacher lined up in second in his Benetton. Hill had a bad start and was immediately overtaken by Schumacher. They utilized different pit stop strategies and the battle was heating up until, on lap 31, the Williams driver spun off the track when his gearbox seized. Schumacher comfortably won the race ahead of Hill's teammate David Coulthard. Third place was contested by Mika Salo in the Tyrrell until he spun on lap 39, suffering from cramp in his hand, and was overtaken by Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren and the Ferraris of Gerhard Berger and Jean Alesi. After the second round pit stops, Berger took third place. After the race, Schumacher and Coulthard were both disqualified, as the fuel sample taken from their cars after qualifying did not match the regulations. All classified drivers moved up to places and Berger was declared the victor, 45-46. However, a successful appeal by the two teams saw their drivers' results reinstated, since the illegal fuel did not offer a performance advantage. For the second race in Argentina, Coulthard achieved pole position, the first of his career, with Hill and Schumacher behind him. The start saw collisions between 8 drivers and the race was suspended. On lap 6 of the restarted race, Coulthard's throttle failed, allowing Schumacher and Hill past and leading to the Scots' retirement shortly after. During the pit stops, Hill grabbed the lead and Alesi took second place. Schumacher finished third. Before the race in San Marino, it was Benetton's Michael Schumacher on pole position for the first time this season. Berger started second, much to the joy of the local tifosi. Hill started in fourth. Light rain was falling, and teams faced a difficult choice in tires. The first 5 drivers on the grid started on rain tires and, after the start, were 5 seconds per lap quicker than the rest of the field. Rubens Barrichello, the only other driver on wet tires, started in 10th in his Jordan and quickly got up to 6th. Things turned out in the pit stops. Schumacher crashed, coming out on his cold tires, and Berger's car stalled, giving the lead to Damon Hill. Coulthard and Alesi fought hard over then second place, but the overeager Williams driver exceeded the pit lane speed limit and had to undertake a 10-second stop-go penalties. The podium order was Hill, Alesi, Berger. In Spain, it was Schumacher on pole for the second time, and he led from start to finish. On the last lap, Hill was in second, but when he suffered from a hydraulic problem, he crawled across the line in fourth. This allowed Schumacher's teammate Johnny Herbert through to second place, his first ever podium. Berger finished third, while Alesi and Coulthard retired. After 4 races, Schumacher in the Benetton led the Drivers' Championship with 24 points, just 1 ahead of Hill in the Williams. On the narrow streets of Monaco, Damon Hill for Williams qualified in pole position. Championship leader Michael Schumacher in the Benetton started next to him. David Coulthard, Gerhard Berger, and Jean Alesi completed the top 5, but the three collided going in the first corner. The track was blocked, and the race was suspended. At the second start, the top drivers remained in order, but during the pit stops, Hill fell back behind Schumacher and Alesi. The Ferrari then crashed whilst attempting to avoid Martin Brundle, who had spun. Coulthard retired, so the top three at the finish was Schumacher, Hill, Berger. In Canada, Michael Schumacher achieved pole position, the 100th for a Renault-powered F1 car, and led away comfortably, until on lap 57, an electrical problem forced him into the pits. He was stationary for 70 seconds to change his steering wheel and perform an onboard computer adjustment. He recovered to 5th position at the finish. Jean Alesi went on to win the race on his 31st birthday. This would be his only career victory, and also marked the last time to date that a car with a V12 engine won. After several other frontrunners encountered problems late in the race, the Jordans of Rubens Barrichello and Eddie Irvine completed the surprising podium. Just like in Monaco, Hill started on pole position in France, but lost out to second starting Schumacher during the pit stops. His teammate Coulthard started and finished in third. During the British Grand Prix Championship, rivals Hill and Schumacher clashed for the first time. Hill had started from pole, while Schumacher fell behind third starting Alesi. As happened regularly this season, Schumacher took the lead by only needing one pit stop, compared to Hill's two. But when the Williams tried to repass the Benetton, the two collided and retired. This promoted their teammates Johnny Herbert and David Coulthard to the front. Coulthard took the lead, but incurred a stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Herbert won the first race of his career, ahead of Jean Alesi in the Ferrari. Two weeks later, Michael Schumacher won his home race, the German Grand Prix. Damon Hill had achieved pole position once again, but this time, spun off on the second lap as a result of driveshaft failure. David Coulthard finished second, Gerhard Berger was third, recovering from a 10-second stop-go penalty for jumping the start. The 1995 Hungarian Grand Prix was a grand slam for Damon Hill. He won from pole position and set the fastest lap. Coulthard finished second and Berger third. Michael Schumacher was classified 3 laps down, suffering from fuel pump issues. In the Drivers' Championship, Michael Schumacher was leading with 56 points, ahead of Damon Hill with 45 and Jean Alesi with 32. Qualifying for the Belgian Grand Prix took place in varying weather conditions, and championship rivals Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill could only achieve 16th and 8th place on the grid, respectively. Ferrari's Gerhard Berger and Jean Alesi blocked out on the front row, but both retired during the race. Hill took the lead after his teammate David Coulthard retired with gearbox issues, but then, as it was seen at least 3 times during the season already, Schumacher passed him during the round of pit stops. The story did not end there. However, the rain arrived and Hill made a second pit stop for rain tires, while Schumacher tried to brave it out, at one point lapping 6 seconds slower than his rival. To make matters worse, he went off the track and the Williams took the lead until the rain stopped, the track dried, and the Benetton was back on top. When the safety car came out, the playing field was leveled and Schumacher led away from Hill, both on wet tires. It looked like a thrilling battle to come, until the Brit was served a 10-second stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He did recover to second place, but finished far behind the German. Martin Brundle came home in a surprising third position. On the formation lap of the Italian Grand Prix, pole-sitter David Coulthard spun off and retired with terminal damage. However, when the race was suspended after a first-lap collision in the same corner, with the track being blocked by 4 stranded cars, Coulthard was able to take the restart in a spare car, on pole position. Michael Schumacher and Gerhard Berger started behind him. On lap 13, Coulthard retired again, this time with a wheel bearing failure, and Schumacher crashed out when he was hit in the back by championship rival Damon Hill. The Ferraris were running 1-2 on home soil until a TV camera on Alesi's rear wing fell off and destroyed Berger's suspension. With 8 laps to go, the Frenchman also retired and handed a second victory to Benetton's Johnny Herbert. In Portugal, Coulthard started on pole position again, and this time, he held on to achieve his first career win. Hill started in second, before Schumacher in third, but they finished the other way around. At the Nürburgring, and saw Coulthard start on pole, ahead of teammate Damon Hill and championship leader Michael Schumacher. Many teams decided to start on rain tires, but Ferrari and McLaren switched to dries after the first start was abandoned. Schumacher and Hill battled again, switching positions several times, while Coulthard suffered from excessive oversteer and fell behind them. Meanwhile, Alesi was in the lead and extended his advantage to 45 seconds. During the second round of pit stops, however, he collided with Hill and had to pit for repairs. Berger retired with engine problems and Hill crashed out on lap 58. Schumacher passed Alesi for the lead, 2 laps from the end, and Coulthard completed the podium. The F1 circus landed in Japan for 2 races, the first one dubbed the Pacific Grand Prix. Williams driver David Coulthard achieved his 4th pole position in a row, ahead of teammate Damon Hill and championship leader Michael Schumacher in his Benetton. At the start, 4th starting Jean Alesi got up to 2nd place. After Schumacher overtook Hill and Alesi during the first round of pit stops, he closed in on the leader and lapped consistently faster, so that the German just came out in front after all pit stops were made. Scoring his 8th victory of the season and gaining enough points to make it impossible for Hill to catch him, the Schumi was crowned the 1995 Drivers' Champion. He was the youngest double Drivers' Champion up to that point. Schumacher did not settle down. He started on pole position for the Japanese Grand Prix. The Williams cars could not match the pace and made room for Jean Alesi and Mika Häkkinen in the top 3 on the grid. All drivers started on rain tires, as it had rained in the morning and the track was damp, but it did not stop the champion from leading away. Both Ferraris were judged to have jumped the start and served a 10-second stop-go penalty. But Alesi was the first to switch to dry tires and began making his way through the field. On lap 25, he was only 6 seconds behind leader Schumacher when he had to retire with a driveshaft failure. When the rain arrived, but only on one edge of the circuit, teammates Hill and Coulthard crashed out in the same corner, 1 lap after each other. Schumacher won, and his teammate Johnny Herbert came home in 3rd, earning Benetton the 1995 Constructors' Champions. The final race of the season was held in Australia and saw most of the front-running cars retire, except for pole-sitter Damon Hill. David Coulthard crashed while entering the pit lane, Schumacher and Alesi collided, and Herbert and Berger retired with mechanical issues. Hill won, over 2 laps ahead of Ligier's Olivier Panis and Johnny Morbidelli in a footwork, equaling Jackie Stewart's feat during the 1969 Spanish Grand Prix.